Testing, testing. Are we on? Are we live? All right. Let's go. Hey, what up? What up? What up? It's your boy Trav. I'm in this thing. Let me move this over so I can see myself. How y'all doing? And out of this concept right now, I wanted to go live and talk about it. So, wife, woman's illusion, fooling everybody. Now, why is this the topic? I think a lot of us, as we get older and start dating, and we've had our experiences with women, if you've really been out here and you've taken some L's and you tried the logical approach with the logistics of how to talk to women, you've had certain situations where you might have met certain women that you would be like, oh, that's wife material right there. That's wifey. That's a top-notch chick right there. But then as you get to know them and you start to ask them questions, on paper, they're everything that you think. Then as you get to know them, the stuff off paper, you surprised. And then you might see their dating history and see that they're put together on paper, but the men that they choose are not put together on paper. And that's one thing you have to understand in this world is that women are more dynamic than men. See, with men, we're usually one way or the other. It's like a guy's real ratchet, or a guy's real square, or a guy's real this, or a guy's real that. Women can encompass everything. They can go to school, go to class, get 4.0s, do extracurricular activities. And then you're going to tell yourself, oh, that's the perfect woman. She hasn't done certain things. You'll start projecting on her that she's this perfect girl. But then when you see that she's with these, let's say, a drug dealer or a quote unquote Pookie or Ray Ray, as you want to say, or some guy that doesn't have the character you think she should be dating, you would think she should be finding her counterpart. Good evening, man. How's it going? Share a link if you out there. Share, tell people I'm live talking about this. Again, woman's illusion fooling everybody. So you put this status on this woman. You think because she's everything on paper, she might have a master's degree. She's doing these extracurricular community clubs. She's everything that Claire Huxtable or the girl next door should be. So you project on her that she wouldn't do certain things. But then as you get to know these women and talk to them and they feel comfortable with you, they share sides about them that you wouldn't think, or they reveal to you dating history that you didn't think would be there. So I know for myself, I've learned that when I talk to women that I have to be stoic and I just have to listen and not put any type of pretense to what I think they're going to be like. I can assume, I can go off pattern, but you never truly know. When I was younger before, I was a very mature kid growing up. You know, I didn't get into a lot of trouble. I had fun, but I was pretty dynamic of a dude. I could go out and go to the parties and not engage in certain activities like drugs and all that, but I could still go on the dance floor and mingle with the athletes and the street guys and do what I do and have fun till 4 a.m, but still come home and not get in trouble and go to class and not cut class. So I would think maybe if I found certain people that fit a certain mold, they would be like that. And what it would do is it would strike me out because you put too much pressure on these women, because a lot of times people like their opposites. So you hear, why do good girls like bad guys? And that's because women want to have fun, like Cyndi Lauper said. So since they want to have fun, a lot of times they're looking for that counterpart to bring that fun side out of them. You have a mature person and a mature person, and you try to put them together a lot of times, and then you wonder why it doesn't work, or these women might have friend zoned you, but you're everything on paper she should want, and then she goes with everything on paper she shouldn't want. This woman's complaining that she has everything going for her, but her boyfriend shows up late to her events high. Well, why does she deal with that? Because he gives her all the fun stuff that the mature guy is not giving her. And because he's fulfilling that dark side of her that the mature guy can't touch. He doesn't know these things. Again, he projects. I remember I met a woman that was from outside of the country, and she had a master's degree, and she knew about coding. And I was like, oh man, like I've been looking for this for such a long time. And this is what I've been wanting for so long. So I project on her from what she tells me on paper and the wife status that she's putting out there, that wifey material, right? That, oh, she's a very mature woman, so I have to approach her as a mature man. I have to step it up. She don't deal with bums. She don't deal with guys that aren't on their stuff. And I'm on my stuff, so it's going to be cool. But as I got to talk to this woman and she felt comfortable and safe to open up about her truths of her life, a lot of her dating history was anything but mature. I've heard the whole gamut. Women who did hardcore drugs, cocaine, uh, you know, Percocets, lean, whatever. Women experimenting with other women, women dating drug dealers. I would say about half the women I've dated from all walks of life, all races. I've dated every race. Half of them at some point dealt with a drug dealer. And you would be like, why was it that they put this drug dealer guy? He's not anything that this woman should see. She's a wife, right? Woman's illusion fooling everybody. She likes that fun dark side. He brings that out of her. A lot of times with people, the right person can bring the right side out of you. And with women, when it comes to dating, especially if a woman's a career woman, they like to find a guy that's going to be masculine and bring that feminine side out of her and get that wildest out, because she's in an environment where every day she has to be like a man. She has to run the show. She can't be on her feminine. She can't let her hair down. So when she's with a more extreme guy that's more hardcore, let's say, so out here in these streets having fun and more relaxed and can get her out of that controlled, disciplined environment, that catches her attention, not the guy that's just like her. Now, I've also dated some women who were wife material out on the outside and they were that on the inside. And that's great when you can find that. But I've seen a lot of times when you start projecting that you found that Claire Huxtable, that good girl, you're going to lose because you're going to get disappointed. You can't judge books by its cover. Some of the wildest women with the wildest stories that I've encountered were women that had everything together on paper. And then you start putting too much pressure on them because you think they're as mature as you just because on paper they look good. So you start showing that you have standards. You might have certain judgments about certain things. I don't like people that do this. I don't like people that do that. I've lived my life a certain way. I'm very disciplined. I'm very structured. No, that's going to turn a lot of them off. You have to listen. Why this guy didn't? They'll complain and say, yeah, this guy dated. I'm in relationships right now because these guys didn't keep jobs, and I was helping support him, and he didn't do his thing, and I don't understand. And then you're the guy that's gonna be the guy with the job, the guy that's got everything together, but you're like, why isn't she giving me the same play? Because you can't listen with, again, you can't listen with your ears. You got to listen with your eyes. You got to look at what they react to. Yeah, this guy, he wasn't, but he could get me to get off work early and make me play hooky from work and go here and go there because he's the fun guy. They don't have that side in them naturally. So they meet a man that can bring that wild side out of them. Because again, if you've dated out here, women are freaky like men. It's just they hide it more and they're more freaky than us sometimes, but they're more complex about it. School teacher women that I've talked to who are on paper perfect, but then behind the scenes, they're into BDSM. They want to be dominated. They want to use nipple clamps and want you to do things. They'll tell you, hurt me when you guys have sex. This girl said that. She's a wife, though. This is wife material, right? Or you hear about a relationship. These people are together for long periods of time. And then all of a sudden, there's a breakup, irreconcilable differences. And then you see how the woman that seems so perfect on the outside does the dude dirty and leaves and just gave no F's. And you're like, how could she do that to this man? Like, she seems so cool. I mean, Will and Jada, if we go to the Will and Jada situation, Will and Jada seemed like the perfect couple on the outside. And then as we got to see what went on, you saw that she pulled that move with August Alsina. And then instead of just coming up front and forthright with it, what did she say? Oh, it wasn't a relationship we had. It was an entanglement. She was still playing a PR game and not admitting what she did. But again, she was wife material, right? And then you get surprised when you see these women that you think are wife material. Hey, Misha, how you doing? How you doing? And again, wife was illusion fooling everybody. You think she would never do those things, and then she does that. And you get your heart broken because you projected too much onto them. You didn't accept them for who they are. You didn't take your time to learn the person and ask the right questions. And then you came on too strong too soon and you lose out. And then you see that this wife material woman is dating a guy that's a quote unquote loser. And you're like, why did the loser get the woman and not you, the mature man? Because you put too much on her. You put her on a pedestal too much. You didn't get to know her to know the real her. See, everybody out here is running a PR campaign. When you meet people, as it's been said by other people, you meet their representative. As people get comfortable with you and they trust you to confide in you, then you meet the real them and you'll be surprised on what you hear. That's where this whole red pill space came about, because a lot of men started realizing that these wife material women that they thought were not that behind closed doors. And they were striking out even though they thought logically they were doing what they're supposed to do. Now, there are a lot of men that aren't handling their business and they don't realize it, but you get fooled sometimes. Even me, as much success as I've had, I've still got fooled at times. And I was like, what? How would she not like me? Because all these other girls do. Now, sometimes we weren't compatible, but sometimes there were times where I gave them too much credit too soon. And it made me feel weird. You know, when I started getting consistently good with women, the amount of women that would admit to me the one night stands they had, the threesomes they had, the experimentation they tried, the uh, men that were abusive to them and they stayed with them, the psychological issues that they took from that, but yet they kept going back. I was like, but you're this wife material woman. Why would you like that? Because yeah, on paper, they're doing everything right on paper. But again, women are more dynamic than men. They can they can multitask better than us. So they can take care of business on paper, but still be wild and do all the fun stuff. Again, men, we tend to be one or the other. We're really too far to have fun, or we're too square. We don't know how to balance as well as women do. So that's why. And that's why when certain men are very dynamic like a woman, they get entranced by them because they don't see that much. That's why in this space, it gets preached to do a different thing, switch it up, surprise people, because women will surprise you. You can't be so one track minded and think that just because somebody puts this Leave It to Beaver Pleasantville presentation, that's who they are. That's who they are because that's who they want you to see. You have to be a psychologist out here. You have to pick up on signs, and that comes through repetition, meeting different people and going through with wins and losses. You know, I've talked to women that worked in tech, very nerdy square girls that you think wouldn't do anything, and then, boyfriends in jail, and then had issues with cutting themselves, or because their dad screwed them up, it got them hooked on the wrong vices. And you're like, what? And then that might make you feel insecure because you don't feel wild enough, because there are good men out here that want to be good men and just traditional. They don't want to be players. So maybe they didn't have some of these experiences. And then these women that you thought were wife material had a lot of these wild experiences that you haven't had. And then you think, are you man enough? What did I do wrong? Why is it that I keep running into this? Because again, you not understanding that people are complex. Don't put a blanket cover on people and think that's just who they are. You have to listen. Take time to get to know someone and just ask more questions than things you say. Listen twice the more than you speak. That's how you figure people out. That's how you don't get disappointed. And the thing is people change. So you could have a woman that's been down for you for so long, for years, and everything could have gone right. But you could hit one bump in the road, or you could hit her value system could change because people change. Her value system could change depending on the actions she's doing and the things she's done, and then she totally flips on you because now you're not the top thing in her life anymore, and you wonder why. Where did this come from? Why is it that she was so everything was going so strong, and then we have a commitment now. We've been rocking for a while, and now it's like there's all these things we've been through, but she was so quick to change up and leave. She starts disrespecting you. She starts not doing the things that she did because she got too comfortable. It's because you also allowed that, because you gave her too much credit, because you said, oh, she's wife status. No. People tend to get comfortable and push your boundaries, and you have to keep people honest. An approach is with the NBA, they give contracts, guaranteed contracts. So they give you the money up front. And then when people get the money up front, you see some of these NBA players stop developing their skill, developing their talent, and they don't stay serious because they got the money already. So why do they need to put in the work? They got the money whether they do the work or not. You didn't keep that person on their toes because you thought love was conditional or unconditional. You let people slack because, oh, we're in this for the long haul. No, love is conditional, like I said in my other drop. So because that person's gotten all the benefits and you're not challenging them to keep that position to get your benefits, then you wonder why they change. It's just like if you get a job. When you first get a new job, oh, you're doing everything right because you got to prove yourself. You're in that probation period. But after that 90-day probation period, people start to slack. They start to not be as serious, follow the standard operating procedures because they're past that probation period. People can never fully be off the probation period with you. Now, a lot of this wife material thing of why we get screwed up is because as men, we were taught wrong. We were taught that, again, women are sugar and spice and everything nice. They can be, but you have to bring that side out of them. They could also turn for the worse on you. You'll bring that side out of them too. A lot of that depends on your behavior with them. People treat you according to what you bring out of them. So that's why you have to learn game. And if you really want to have game and have a long-term relationship, that takes the most game, especially if you move in with somebody. We were talking about this earlier on Offie's Live, because once you live with somebody, they know all your tricks. Nothing's new anymore. See, when you didn't live together, there's space. So when there's space, they have time to wonder about you. They don't see everything you do at home. There's certain habits they still don't see. When you live with somebody, you can't BS them anymore. You're going to see everything about them unless you're doing things outside of the household that you're hiding. And a lot of people do that too. But again, you need to have a solid program. So realistically, what is a wife, right? Well, realistically, it's not a perfect person. It's not a woman that's going to be sugar and spice and everything nice. And in this day and age, she's going to have some type of past. You're just going to have to deal with that. And then sometimes if you're more, because I'm going through this now, if you're more of a unicorn of a man or a man that's doing everything he needs to do, it's going to be harder for you to find a counterpart of the same stature. So that's why you can get disappointed. Again, I've been a player by force because I thought I found a lot of wife material women, but I realized it was her illusion. As I got to know her, I saw that some of these women were more ratchet than the girls that were outwardly ratchet. You just got to get to know them. They just know how to run that PR campaign better. They know how to keep it behind closed doors. And they want to find the guy that can bring that out of them behind closed doors. So it's not going to be the perfect guy that's the suit and tie and does everything perfect. They like a guy with the little edge. So that's why you see them go to the opposite side of the tracks and mess with men that aren't what they should be about, right? Then you'll see these wife material women keep going to these wrong men because they bring out the animal side of them That's that primal nature. That's that attraction. And they repeat that process till maybe they get to some point mentally where they realize they can't do that anymore because they've been broken from it, or they finally just say, hey, I've had it's time to have children or something, and they go, I have to find a husband type now because my time is running out and I can't do this anymore because I need to find someone that's going to take kids. And that's maybe where you come along. But then you realize that at that time, a lot of these women will complain about men. But again, women in accountability a lot of times are kryptonite. So what they're not telling you is they're not going to tell you, though, all the bad decisions they made. They're just going to generalize what happened. Afi, what up? They're going to generalize what happened and just tell you bits and pieces. That's the PR story that makes it look good for them. But they didn't tell you that they made bad decisions. They didn't tell you that they picked these guys because it was the fun. They didn't, and it wasn't because of character. I've had numerous women because, again, I've been a guy that can be serious but have the fun side too, being dynamic. And women will admit to me, hey, after I met you, I realized I was dating the wrong men. But they knew better but didn't do better because it wasn't what they wanted. It wasn't fun at the time. It didn't get their rocks off. But now their rocks are off in their head, and then they start male bashing, and you got to hear the sob stories. Men aren't this, men aren't that. No, the men you picked. But you don't want to take accountability for that because you got this wife material persona on the outside, so you can get away with it because on the outside it looks like you're all good, but you're not telling everybody about this dark past that you have. You're not admitting that you did drugs with this person behind closed doors, and that's why you had these bad habits and had this bad man. You're not admitting some of these sexual endeavors that you were doing with this guy, and that's why you liked him. And if that's what you do, that's fine, but just own it. And then be honest. Then you find a good man, and then they lie to you and not tell you everything that they did, but tell you the sob story part. Now, men do this too, but I'm not gay, so I don't deal with men. So I'm not dealing with that. I'm just talking to the fellas right now as far as the women's illusion fooling everybody. Only the players are going to know this stuff. That's why they deal with the players, because the players have that knowledge to play the game that the average man doesn't know because he only knows common knowledge. He doesn't know how to bring that side out of them. He doesn't know how to listen. He doesn't know how to tap into their emotion. He doesn't know how to tap into their mind and capture it. And you see all this repeat over and over and over again. And a lot of times that's why there's a lot of these relationships that break up. It's because a lot of these men don't know game. Now, you could still have that too, right? And people can change. But that's the issue that's going on because women aren't telling us in general the real about what they want. They don't even know. They don't necessarily know what they want. Logically, on paper, they might want those good things, but they don't know even inside what they choose on. They can't look at their dating behavior and see that what I logically think is not emotionally what I pick, because women are emotional. They're not as logical as us. Well, if it's traditional, a lot of these men aren't emotional too. Yeah, entertaining, excitement, and excuses seem to be the lifestyle of these females. Yeah, and a big reason of why that is because men don't hold them accountable. Then you got to think about this. If they're able to get away with so many men not holding them accountable, why do you think they're not going to pick the mature man? Because the mature man is going to hold them accountable for their actions, and they don't like that. It's not fun. It's easier to make an excuse and bash men instead of looking inside and go, you know what? It's my choices that's doing this. And the reason why I love accountability is because if I can be accountable and say I can change this, then I'm not a victim. But when you can't change something, that makes you a victim. And people like being victims because they don't want to take accountability to know that they can make the change, because that takes work, that takes humbleness, and that takes you to check your own ego. Now, do you think if a woman is super bad, And she's used to men giving her a certain treatment her whole life, especially when she's young. And the first accountable man comes along that's more disciplined, that's more structured, that's not going to take certain things and demand her to step her life up. Whether she's wife material or not on paper, do you think if she has other options that are not going to make her accountable, that she's going to stay with you? Probably not. Unless there's a bigger play at the other end of the rainbow that she sees. If there's not a super big reward for that, a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow, she's going to jump ship and just go to something that's more simple, because it's easier to do that, get your thrills off, and then just complain about the men later. Then find the one guy that doesn't know game, that she can kind of read and tell he's a good guy. He's not a player, so she can feel more safe and secure because he's going to do the right things. And then she can get away with some of the mistakes she made instead of holding that accountable. Because how the game goes now is women will complain, say men ain't crap, but they pick ain't crap men. Then you got these male feminists and simps that don't get enough women to see the patterns and see how a lot of it is their fault. And then you got guys like us that call them out on their stuff because we have options. So we don't care if women on average, reject us or not, because we can replace them. So because we have more control and we're saying the truth and we're not afraid to say that, we're misogynist, we're chauvinist, we're toxic masculine. And who hurt you? The shaming tactics come. So that's the name of the game. Now, some of these women can be wives for you, but you might have to accept that they have a checkered past when you get to know them. And you wouldn't think it on paper. So you're going to be like, oh, I got this woman. And then guess what? Over time, she starts opening up and she might tell you some things and you'll be surprised what you hear. Again, I've met women the first day I met them, and because they can read me and tell that I've kind of been around a little bit and I've had experiences, I've had women tell me the day that I met them that they used to be prostitutes, had sex with 2 men in the same day, issues with cocaine and drug abuse, drug dealer boyfriends. Show receipt strap. All these different things. And it's because they can read on me like, oh, this guy knows game. You know what I mean? But then when I say, hey, I don't want to deal with that, it's, oh, well, I'm not that person anymore. It's like, okay, cool. But I don't want you to be that person to begin with. I don't want to deal with that. And somehow there's something wrong with me. That some of them will try to make me feel bad. You made me think about things from my past, and that's your fault. You're the one that told me this stuff. I didn't ask you to bring this up. You just finally got to a point where you saw a dude that you really liked. Because see, you'll think that because maybe some of these wives did some of this stuff, you're out their league. Nah, you can still capture a woman's mind even if she's done more wild stuff than you. A lot of times she did that wild stuff because she was broken and was trying to find something to capture her mind. So that's why she had all these experiences. But then you become the experience. And I had to learn that. And you might have just came at the right time. Now you're the drug. But they can't get that true drug they want, which is you, which is why maybe they did some of these things and made some of these bad decisions. And then instead of looking at themselves in the mirror and being accountable, they can throw it on you that, oh, it's your fault. So that's the big thing I want men to realize is you can't prejudge people. You can't put a book on its cover or judge a book by its cover. You can't just go, oh, she does A, B, and C, so she's D. No. Some of the hood girls I've dated had the lowest body counts. Some of the girls with the best homes with mother and father there had some of the higher body counts. If you don't listen and you don't allow them to show themselves, you won't know this. But if you try to project too much and put too much of that, oh, she's wife material, so I'm going to put that on her, she'll know inside she's not that, even if she seems that on the outside, and she won't feel confident with you. because she knows she's not going to live up to your expectations. That's why she'll cut bait and go with lesser men, because she don't have the expectation she has to meet with that man, and she gets a sense of control if she feels like she's more put together than that broken man she deals with. That project validates her. That's not logical to us as men, but that's the game, and you need to understand that. So that's in closing, y'all. There are some wives out here, don't get me wrong, but remember that acronym that is WIFE, Women's Illusion Fooling Everybody.